President Trump's personal finances have been a mystery that Democratic leaders have fought to uncover since before he was elected to office in 2016. And still, to this day, the president's relationship with Deutsche Bank has remained under scrutiny. Over the years, Deutsche Bank has grown to become one of the largest financial institutions in the world, some say built on a history of risky business alliances and unorthodox practices. In the new book out today, titled Dark Towers, Deutsche Bank, Donald Trump, and an Epic Trail of Destruction, author David Enrich uncovers a historically rocky partnership between Donald Trump and Deutsche Bank. David, the finance editor at the New York Times, joins me now. David, how is Deutsche Bank tied to Donald Trump?
Well, for the past 20 years, Deutsche Bank has been the only mainstream financial institution willing to do business with Donald Trump, who has this long, very well documented and colorful history of defaults. And Deutsche Bank was so desperate to gain a foothold in the United States and to increase its profits as quickly as possible that it was more than willing to get right into bed with Donald Trump.
And in your book, you write that Deutsche Bank provided several programs and services to Donald Trump in an effort to help keep his businesses afloat. What were they? So
the biggest was that they lent him billions of dollars over a 20-year period. As recently as 2016, he owed about $350 million to the bank, making Deutsche Bank his biggest creditor. But over the years, they also provided a range of other services, including introducing him to wealthy, well-connected Russians who are looking to put their money into Western real estate, and also introducing him to other potential business partners. And those ties are now under intensive scrutiny in Congress and in the law enforcement community.
You also describe a symbiotic relationship in your book, that President Trump was benefited from some of these riskier business practices on the part of Deutsche Bank, but that he also helped to grow Deutsche Bank.
Yep.
Can you explain that?
Yeah, so Deutsche Bank at the time when this relationship was getting underway was really eager to make a name for itself in the United States. This is a German bank that had very little name recognition in New York and the rest of the country. And so Donald Trump, who is this very splashy kind of over-the-top businessman, was a great way to improve the brand recognition. And so they would, for example, invite Donald Trump to the annual golf tournament. He would go there and sign everyone's $100 bills. They would record promotional videos with Trump where he would talk about how easy it was to get money out of the bank. And so this was very much a symbiotic relationship where Donald Trump was getting what he needed, which was lots of money, and the bank was getting what it needed, which was easy profits and a splashy brand recognition.
So much so that you detail a moment where he doesn't repay, like he sells junk bonds and he defaults on that, right?
Yeah, and that's the first of a number of instances where Trump basically stiffs Deutsche Bank or its customers. And there's the junk bonds they defaulted on. A few years after that, he defaulted on a huge loan to finance a skyscraper in Chicago. And time after time, Donald Trump defaults on or otherwise rips off Deutsche Bank. And Deutsche Bank proves willing over and over again to get back in bed with him and continue doing business with him. And I've been covering this stuff for 15 years or so, and I've never seen a relationship quite like this one before.
And you say that Deutsche Bank is very much siloed. So when he would go looking for a loan in one department, the other department doesn't mention that, hey, he defaulted on that. But is there also something overall about Deutsche Bank that makes them more willing to overlook things that you and I couldn't get away with?
Well, yeah, certainly. And part of it is just greed. And they were so eager to increase short-term profits as quickly as possible that they just threw caution to the wind. They disregarded all sorts of red flags, whether it was Trump's tendency for defaulting or his potential connections to money laundering and organized crime, which some people inside the bank were very concerned about. And they were just so eager to make money off of this relationship that they just plunged headfirst in a really reckless manner.
And you say that Deutsche Bank actually has the information that Democrats and others have asked for. You write that if Trump cheated on his taxes, Deutsche Bank would probably know. If his net worth is measured in millions, not billions, Deutsche Bank would probably know. If he secretly got money from the Kremlin, Deutsche Bank would probably know. What do they know, and what have you been able to uncover? And then the other part of this question is, why won't Deutsche Bank give up any of the information?
Well, I think Deutsche Bank probably will give up this information. It's awaiting a hearing before the Supreme Court next month on whether it has to comply with these subpoenas from Congress over whether to hand over reams of its financial information on Donald Trump. And if the Supreme Court rules against Donald Trump, which I think most people expect it will, then this whole trove of information is going to end up in the hands of Congress and then probably in the public domain. And this is everything from his tax returns to detailed financial information about him, his family members, his businesses. And it also includes information, I'm told, that shows some of the concerns that bank employees raised about potential money laundering in the Trump and the Jared Kushner accounts.
I have to say, your book reads like fiction. It starts off with a drama, a man's death, incidences with very rich characters. And I know that you did more than 200 interviews in the course of writing this book. Did you seek out to write about Deutsche Bank or to write about Donald Trump?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's weird. It's kind of both, I guess. I mean, I've been focusing on Deutsche Bank, believe it or not, for about 10 years now. And it's been my little unhealthy obsession, as my wife can attest to. And it's something that has been on my radar for a long time. I've been very curious about it, have been investigating it for a while. But it wasn't until Trump won the election and it became clear that he would not have done so were it not for Deutsche Bank's help that I realized that this had the potential to be a good book.
A very interesting book out today. We reached out to Deutsche Bank for a statement on David's book, but we have not heard back. David Enrich, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.